Hey everybody, it's George from the Dinosaur George Company answering all these incredible questions you send me. Okay, let's start off with Jonas from Durango, Mexico. Jonas says, "Hi again, Dinosaur George. I need help. My teacher doesn't believe me." Well, let me tell you something, Jonas. I spent my entire childhood in that position, so you've come to the right person. I told my teacher about Ichthyes, a fish that lived 500 million years ago in the Cambrian period. And I told her that this fish is the first invertebrate, but she doesn't believe me because I said that fish are from the Cambrian. But she says that the first fish are from the Silurian. Can you please help me? Well, Jonas, actually, you're right. The first invertebrates appear in the Cambrian. And yes, there were fish in the Cambrian towards the end. What your teacher's talking about is recognizable fish really start to show up about the Silurian. And when I say recognizable fish, I'm talking about things that look like fish. Most of the critters that were around during the Cambrian are these slimy, almost appear to have no bone kind of creatures, eel-like things, snaky-looking things. But there were invertebrates that appear at the end of the Cambrian, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Ichthyes, the fish you're referring to, is considered one of the first invertebrate fish. So I think you're correct. Now here's the problem, Jonas. Let's say you're able to prove your teacher wrong. Some teachers would be happy that a student did that kind of research. Other teachers may take offense to the fact that a young person is correcting them. So you have to handle this very cautiously. My suggestion to you is you continue to do some research and you figure out if you were correct or not. And if you were correct, keep it to yourself, buddy. There's your first life lesson. All right, Eric from Hillside, New Jersey. Dear George, I've heard a lot about you from my friends Evan and Emma, and I wanted to ask you this, and it's been on my mind for years now. First of all, Eric, welcome. I am very good friends with Evan and Emma. I assume Evan and Emma from Facebook. And so I'm glad that you've joined us, Eric, and I welcome your question. He said, could it be possible that various unidentified animals, often seen in lakes and remote locations throughout the world, are indeed relics of prehistory? I mean, there are examples of animals that were thought to have been vanished from the end of the Cretaceous period. He said, there are examples of animals that were thought to have vanished at the end of the Cretaceous period, such as the coelacanths, and many speculate about the continued existence of megalodon. But could rogue dinosaur populations have extinction? Thank you very much for your time in reading this, Eric. Well, again, Eric, welcome to the group. Here's my opinion. Eric, the world is a very, very big place, and it would be arrogant of us to believe that we know of all life that exists. Listen, almost once a week I get word that a new species of animal or bird or plant has been discovered, and you would think by now we would have found it all. If there are groups of animals that are still alive, and I do believe there are, my thoughts are they're probably not the big animals. For instance, I would love to think that there's a plesiosaur in Loch Ness. That would be incredible. But when you're as big as a plesiosaur, it seems to me like it would be difficult to hide for an extended period of time. It seems like somebody would have much clearer evidence. So I have a tendency to believe that if there are prehistoric creatures among us, they are probably smaller than larger. But when you look at the size of this planet and you look at the depths of the ocean, it would not be beyond belief that something huge is out there. So I always tell everyone, I think it's arrogant to make a definitive statement that nothing could possibly exist like that. Unfortunately, I've yet to see any evidence that tells me with certainty that they did. You notice, Eric, I'm going to make a great politician because I'm really good at not taking a stand. But I'm being serious, Eric, and I hope you appreciate my point of view, and that is, I would love to see it, and I do believe that's the possibility exists, strong possibility exists, but until I see it, something that I consider to be more conclusive evidence, I'll kind of stay on the fence. All right, Hamza from Banks, Oregon. Hey, DG, I have a question. I heard that there was a dinosaur named Dinosaur, and it was huge. What family did it belong to? Was it a Gallimimus or what? And he says, by the way, I'm Amar's brother. Well, Amar is a very good friend, Hamza, as you are. I enjoy hearing from both of you guys. Okay, Dinosaur. Now, this thing is a mystery. In Mongolia, they found these gigantic arms with pretty massive claws. And for the longest time, everybody assumed they belonged to a giant theropod. But then they've studied them a little bit closer, and my understanding is that most paleontologists agree that this animal was more similar to Struthiomimus and Ornithomimus and Gallimimus and that bunch. Myself, I've seen the arms at the New York Museum of Natural History. They do look similar to the arms of Gallimimus and Struthiomimus to a degree, but I haven't studied them enough to be able to make a decision for myself. So I'm relegated to go with the decisions of those that have studied them closer. And my understanding is that most of them believe, excuse me, most of them believe that Deinocheirus was not the gigantic theropod we thought, but it was probably more similar to one of the Mimus family. Okay, Jake from San Antonio, Texas, where I live. He said, hey, George, it's Jake, your biggest fan from San Antonio, Texas. Jake, it's always great to hear from you, buddy. Last time I saw you was when I had my birthday in your store at Ingram Mall way back in the day. Wow, that was a long time ago, man. That was like 10 years ago or so, or maybe longer than that now that I think about it. That's so cool. He said, it's great to see you're still teaching folks about dinosaurs. Jake, it's what I love, brother, and I enjoy doing it. I've got two quick questions for you. First, I've always been curious about dinosaur vocal sounds. You see movies and shows with dinosaurs roaring loudly all the time. But without the soft flesh of the throat fossilizing, how do we know they actually roared? Very, very good question, Jake. We don't. We don't know if they made sounds or not. Now, some dinosaurs, like the hadrosaurs especially, they have a pretty amazingly configured skull that clearly, in my opinion, suggests they used it to make sound. It was like a resonating chamber. And since almost all animals on planet Earth make noise, most of the higher forms of life make noise, there's no reason to believe that dinosaurs didn't. What they sounded like, we don't know. He said, and second, I've read a bit about Sauroposeidon being an omnivore and the theory that all sauropods were once omnivores at one point in their lives. What's your take on this? Again, it's nice to see that you're doing well, friend, and I hope to hear from you soon. Jake, again, very good to hear from you, and please say hi to your mother for me. Yeah, Sauroposeidon, I don't know if animals that big were omnivorous or not. They probably were more herbivorous. But the early prosauropods evidence suggests that they were omnivorous. One thing I always tell everybody, when we talk about, we draw this line in the sand, dinosaurs have to be plant eaters, dinosaurs have to be meat eaters, but we don't spend a lot of time discussing omnivores. I saw something, and I had not seen it on with my own eyes on television. I wouldn't have believed it. I one time saw a hippopotamus leave the river, walk up to a dead, I think it was a Cape buffalo, and began to eat it. Now, I was stunned, but I saw it. And I'd heard from a number of other people that told me that hippopotamus were at times omnivores. So there's an example of a great big giant plant eater that otherwise we think would never even consider eating meat, but it did. So is it possible that Sauroposeidon was an omnivore? Perhaps. The biggest problem with Sauroposeidon is that he's really not designed to be able to catch much of anything. So maybe if he found something dead, perhaps he would eat it in an effort to get minerals into his diet that otherwise he doesn't get from plants. Okay, lastly, Jonathan from Tampa, Florida. Who would win in a fight, Dinosaur George, a Ceratosaurus or a Nanotyrannus? He said, I would be very honored if you would answer this question. Thanks. P.S. I know that they didn't live at the same time. Well, that's good, Jonathan. I know that you recognize that these two didn't live at the same time. Looking at the two of them, Nanotyrannus is much more advanced than Ceratosaurus, and I think that alone gives him an edge to where Ceratosaurus wouldn't be able to survive. All right, everybody, that's it for this time. Make sure to practice your reading skills for you younger people, and for everybody out there, please continue to use good manners. Take care of yourself and take care of the people around you. Happy holidays to you all, and I will talk to you again soon. See ya.